I'm going to start with the just the beginning overview of what is autism. And so some of the common symptoms of autism or PDD. Do we have any parents in the audience whose child was newly diagnosed, say in the last 6 months or so? Are there any in that category? Yeah. So sometimes people get hung up by what the exact diagnosis is. It autism, or is it PDD, or maybe it's ADD? And I will just say that it's not that important, because the treatments I'll be talking to will apply to all of these disorders. So the most important thing is to work on reversing the abnormalities that your child has, not on the exact diagnosis, although the exact diagnosis can play an important role as far as getting financial assistance from government agencies and so forth. So these are the symptoms that are present in a lot of people on the autism spectrum, but not all. So lack of speech is a common thing, stereotypical odd behavior, social deficits, hyperactivity. Some children are the opposite, hypoactivity. We had a parent talked about her child was extremely impaired. There was really almost no interaction. It can be poor focus and concentration, reduced pain and danger perception, poor eye contact. So these are some of the common symptoms in autism, and many of the symptoms in autism can be pinpointed to a specific biochemical factor. So I think it's very worthwhile. But I also want to emphasize that not all behaviors, so my child is stimming. Which biochemical factor will it be? Well, that would be very difficult to say. But I am going to go through the things that are common symptoms in which there are common causes. So sleep disturbance, the most common factor is deficiency of melatonin and iron deficiencies. A number of studies have showed children with autism don't make enough melatonin. There's been several studies that show low amounts of melatonin in the urine. Also, a high percentage of children with iron deficiency. Another common factor in autism, and this is one of the most important, you need to watch very carefully if your child exhibits any of these symptoms, is eye pain. And because some children with autism are nonverbal, you may not know that if they have eye pain or not, but they may have eye touching or poking. And the most common cause of this is severe calcium deficiency. So for those of you who have children on the milk and wheat-free diet, it's very important that you give calcium supplementation. So it's not an option, it's a requirement. So if you have your child on milk-free diet, milk is the main source for most children's calcium, so you need calcium supplementation. Hyperactivity and excessive laughing. The most common cause of this is candida, a type of yeast that invades the intestinal tract and lining. Another common cause is lead toxicity. So a large study showed that the most common heavy metal prevalent in autism in a very large group was lead toxicity, much more common than mercury toxicity. Some of the children may look spaced out, no sensitivity to pain, and they may have a diet high in milk and wheat. And so the classic self-chosen diet before parents find out about what's good for their children is macaroni and cheese, which provides both the gluten and the casein. So that's kind of the classic autism food. And so some of this being spaced out is due to the opiate peptides from milk and wheat, And also, it's very common to have allergies, IgG mediated allergies. IgG stands for immunoglobulin G. So that's a type of allergy that is prevalent. 90% of individuals on the autism spectrum have high antibodies to milk and wheat. Some of the children may have frequent urination. So there have been some parents who said their child pees a very small amount, say 50 times a day. This can be a sign that they have oxalate stones in the urinary tract. A common illness associated with high oxalates is kidney stones. So as these stones form, it's difficult for the child to urinate because the pressure of the flow of the urine pushes these sharp-edged stones into the walls of the urinary tract, causing pain, so the child may just urinate a very small amount. Some children may have head banging and hand biting, and this can be due to severe intestinal pain. So there's different factors that can cause this. The dysbiosis or abnormal yeast and bacteria in the intestine can cause this problem. So another symptom that's associated with stomach pain is pushing the stomach against the chairs or the sofa, like leaning over and just pushing into the chair or sofa. And again, that's associated with gastrointestinal discomfort, which can be due to, again, either the abnormal intestinal microorganisms or severe food allergy. Walking on toes, there can be two things. They can have the oxalate deposits in the bottoms of their feet. And so you can picture if you were walking barefoot and the floor was covered with broken glass, the way to avoid getting your foot cut up as much as possible would be to walk on your toes. You would still get some cuts from that, but you would reduce the quantity. And another factor that is common in autism is deficiency of selenium. In animals that lack selenium, they walk on their toes. Excessive drooling is one of the common symptoms of mercury toxicity. There may be extreme violent behavior, kicking, screaming, destructive, and that's commonly associated with Clostridia overgrowth. As a matter of fact, just in the last week, my stepdaughter had a recurrence of the Clostridia problem, and she was hitting herself and biting herself. And for the first time, she was aggressive to other children. She, in her daycare service, she was pinching the other children, and so it was associated with the Clostridia overgrowth of the intestinal tract. It's one of the most common infections in autism, and when it occurs very early, I'm convinced it is one of the main causes of autism. You hear a lot in the press and so forth, autism is a mystery and everything like that. And I would say overall, that's not true anymore. That a lot of the major causes of autism are now very well known, and if they could all be treated, the incidence of autism would be much lower. Our laboratory has tested about 250,000 people in autism throughout the world, and overall, the same factors are present in most people with autism. There are a few exceptions where the person has some rare genetic disease, but overall, the factors I'm talking about are the ones that are present in probably 98% of individuals with autism. Individuals with autism who look at things out of the side of their eye, that is commonly associated with vitamin A deficiency. So these are some of the most common biochemical factors in autism.